Right.
There's so much I want to get into with you, and I feel like this timing is like the timing of this interview is just perfect because of everything
Right.
that's going on. So let's just get right into it. You are no stranger though to protesting. You are no stranger to kind of going against the grain. So for people who don't know, you were one of three football players, including Kaepernick, who protested back in 2016 before it was acceptable by the NFL to do so.
Right.
I want you to kind of walk me through the decision. Did you have a conversation with Kaepernick? Was it something that you saw him do and you're like, I'm going to do it? Did you guys get a chance to talk afterwards? Kind of walk me through that decision making.
Yeah, so Cap is actually my frat brother. We're line brothers as well, and so but we haven't been talking at the time. And I was on the way back from a preseason game. We played the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm just coming back on the plane, and I saw him speak about police brutality and social injustice. And when I saw him, speak, and it was really eloquent, and I was like, yo, what he's saying is real, and it kind of planted the seed. So it planted the seed, and we had maybe a week before our first game, we played the Panthers. We had the first game of the season, Thursday night football. And all throughout that week, as I was preparing for the game plan, that also was sticking in my mind. And so, I got to the point where, right before the game, or actually the night before the game, I said, you know what, I got to the point where if I didn't do it, I would have felt like I was doing myself a disservice. So that's how strongly it hit me. I was really convicted by it. So I didn't even talk to my mom. I didn't talk to Cap. I talked to, my friend Jacob, who helps run my foundation. I talked to him about it. And so, my decision was final when I laid my head on that pillow. And, we played Thursday night against the Panthers, and I decided to take a knee, against I think it was like 75,000 fans.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy because as soon as I took a knee, all the cameras went to me, right? I went back, at halftime, and I had so many notifications, 100 text messages, like 300 notifications on Instagram, good and bad, So but at the end of the day, I don't regret my decision.
Was there a part of you before you did it that was like, okay, wait, should I do, like, were you hesitant at all, even before the very moment, like the minute that music starts playing for the national anthem, were you like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this? Was there ever a situation like that?
Absolutely. I was hesitant all the way up until it, to be honest with you. My heart was beating fast. I was nervous. I started thinking, well, because I had just got, a couple new endorsements, right? I come off a good season, Super Bowl season. And I was like, okay, I could lose these endorsements, which I ended up losing them. And, I was thinking I could lose the support of the organization and the fans, but I still felt like I had a voice. I had a platform that I need to use that voice. And so I decided to do it.
And I think that's really powerful. And I think people don't really understand that or grasp that, because right now we're seeing it in all sports because it's more, like I said, acceptable. And I don't want to use the word popular because popular makes it seem like it's a trend. But for lack of a better word, it's more of a popular thing to do right now because it's a safety net now. Now you kind of have the movement and the support to do so. But when you did it, it was really, you were risking everything. And that goes back to, like you said, you lost endorsements. You did an interview with Complex Sports where you talked about not only losing endorsements, but you got threatening letters, you got threatening gestures. Kind of walk me through those. What were some of those things that you got?
Yeah, man. I mean, even after the second game of the season, I think we played the Colts. After the second game, somebody from the organization came up and asked me to stand up. It was like, yo, we want you to stand up because this is what we believe in. But I truly felt like if I stood up then, it would, how would it look? It would have just been like, oh, Brandon's only standing up because he's getting backlash or because he lost endorsements. But that's not why I kneeled in the first place. That those things didn't scare me, right? So, I mean, yes, absolutely. My position with the team, that's something I really thought about. But I just felt like it was just, I needed to continue to do it. And the more I did it, the more threats I got on Instagram or just derogatory terms people was referring to me as. I got a threatening letter, and it was crazy because it was addressed to from Mrs. Johnson's 7th grade class. And I love kids, so I thought, okay, it's from some kids. So I opened the letter, and then it's talking about the first sentence was like, "Yo, you're a great football player, not, I hate you, jigaboo
Wow.
this, and
They even,
N
I
word
read that
that."
they even called you the N-word in some of them.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
still have the letter actually. Well, no, I don't have it physically, but I took a picture of it. I think it's still on my Instagram. But yeah, it was, and then at the end it says, we're gonna put you in a wheelchair, watch your back. It was crazy. It was a lot going on, and then somebody came to my facility and they burnt like a shirt of mine, and it was a lot going on. And but I stayed strong. I decided to not just kneel, but I wanted to do some work. I talked to the chief of police in Denver, all those things. But it was definitely hard to continue to do it, especially by myself.
Knowing what you sacrificed in terms of, money and endorsements and what you endured with the letters and the gestures, the burning of the jersey and things like that, is a part of you at all disappointed by the lack of support you, Kaepernick, and Eric Reed got 4 years ago versus the level of support that kind of everybody is giving each other now?
Yeah, I am, but I try not to be because I know, like, sometimes, we were a catalyst, to what's happening now. And, we're just before our time. And it's like that sometimes, unfortunately. But, and at the end of the day, I don't do it for the praise or, oh, you were one of the first. I did it at the time because I saw a need and I was really strongly convicted by it. I mean, obviously, like we would, love to get Cap a job. I think that would be, a first step in righting the wrongs, from the NFL and not supporting, the players because the protest started in their league, right? It started in the NFL. So, they didn't support us. I feel like if the NBA would have brought an issue to the NFL, it would have been different, because the NBA, I feel like they support their players so much more than we get from the NFL. So, it sucks. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad that everything came full circle, and that's just how it is in life.
I think that is a good point, and I make this point a lot on my show, is that, the MLB and the NBA tend to be more player progressive leagues. I think also due to the fact that they're international games, you look at, they have basketball in China and Australia, and then baseball, a lot of the players come from Latin America or they come from Asia, whereas the NFL is truly an American sport, and racism is as much rooted in American history as football is. So it makes sense, although I'm not justifying it, it makes sense why the NFL is still kind of stuck in that mentality, like, you are the product, we are the owners, this is how we do it. So seeing how the NFL is kind of orchestrating and how they're maneuvering through the aspects of racial injustice, social injustice, how do you truly feel about it? Kaepernick has been very vocal that he's not buying it, essentially, and that's me just rewording what he said. He said, how can you promote that you're, against racial injustice when you're blackballing my friend Eric Reed? People say the same thing. How can Goodell say he made a mistake without actually giving a direct apology to Kaepernick? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I agree. I definitely agree that, Cap needs an apology. He needs an apology and he needs a job because, he was the first one to start it. He saw a need and he decided to put everything on the line. And, as far as the NFL, I know that they're throwing a lot of money out and it's all good. I definitely appreciate, some efforts, but, I can only hope that it's genuine. I'm not really sure if it comes from a genuine place. I would like to think so, but, who knows, right? But I think everybody would agree that to right these wrongs, there needs to be a couple of steps that happen, right? Apologize to Cap, and he needs to have a job. There's so many quarterbacks out there that aren't even on his level. You know what I mean? You can't tell me that you got guys like, and I don't even want to say people's names, but they know, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cap is a special talent, right? He's a hell of a player. He can get out there right now and win games. So, it's just unfortunate.
And I think it's interesting, and I think a lot of people, it rubbed people the wrong way when they saw that Kaepernick was put in this edition of Madden, and in the hashtag was have Cap lead your franchise or something like that. And people were like, so I can have him as my franchise quarterback in a video game, but I can't have him as my franchise quarterback in real life. Do you feel like that was kind of the NFL's way of trying to soften the blow of the fact, because it did come out after the George Floyd protests where there was rumors, there was a lot of interest in Kaepernick. It came out about a month and a half after that was all false. So do you think that the NFL is just trying to keep their fan base in and also try to appease the Black community with what's going on?
Absolutely. And, you know, they're trying to control the media, right? As long as they can control the narrative, just like his workout, right? They're trying to control the narrative. Oh, he didn't show up, this and this and this and this. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's not any gray area to it. It's black and white. You know, you're going to give the guy a job or not. And I know you're trying to make it nice. Oh, put him on the game or do this or, you know, let's say this. You know, nah, you know, he needs an apology. He needs to be on the roster right now because he can win games. And nobody's disputing that. You know, I don't see it. And the people that are disputing that, they're very misinformed. And I think they're speaking with their emotions because they don't like his stance on everything.
Before I move from this topic, I want to ask you, because a lot of people are torn on this. A lot of people want to use the argument he doesn't really want to play, because if he wanted to play, then he would just abide by the rules, or he would just do what the NFL is saying, or he would just stop tweeting and he would stop. Does Kaepernick want to play football? Absolutely, man. I seen Cap I was in New York for like 2 weeks, right when the pandemic started, or right before the pandemic started. And he told me to go to a certain gym. I went to the gym. He was there warming up, working out like, you know, he had a season to prepare for. And he's still ready, man. He's still in shape. He's still working with coaches. And, I mean, he wants to play. And, you know, that whole narrative, oh, he doesn't want to play, you know, I mean, who started that? Who started that? He never said he didn't want to play. He might have opted out of the contract, but really they was probably going to cut him anyway. But that's one thing that I probably wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have opted out. I would have made them cut me, you know, to kind of, you know, show like where they at with things, because I mean, he had a good season that year. Right. So, but anyway, neither here nor there, but he definitely wants to play. He's staying in shape. He's hopeful. I mean, he has big faith. It's not many people that's going to stay ready 3-4 years out. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I got my hands on one of those Kaepernick jerseys that went on sale today from Nike, so I'm very excited about that, because those were not easy to get. Yeah, I bet. But speaking of feeling it, there were a lot of massive contracts this offseason. Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins, Jalen Ramsey, and there are guys looking to still get paid after this season is over. You look at Dak Prescott, you look at Allen Robinson out in Chicago. Do you think that COVID and the lack of fans and just the complete financial disarray that the league is going to be in, do you think those guys are going to suffer when it comes to payday? I hope not. I hope not. Because at the end of the day, this is still $1 billion business. At the end of the day, you know, at the end of the day, I still feel like players are underpaid in the NFL at least. So I hope these guys get their due. And that's why you see some guys, you know, are taking contracts, you know, like Dalvin Cook. You know, he took his deal because he was uncertain. And the running back market is always kind of iffy. You know, you just never know. But some guys will suffer. It's because some teams will try it 100%. Some teams going to say, well, you know, we can't do this because of COVID and lack of fans or whatever. But at the end of the day, they still have the money. They can find the money. And I know the salary cap will go down, but they can still make it happen. Looking at the Dak Prescott situation, obviously you've dealt with contract negotiations. You have friends who've dealt with contract negotiations. Were you surprised at how long that took? And were you surprised at exactly where they ended up with the franchise tag? You know what? I'm not surprised because, you know, I know Dak values himself at a certain number, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, because he stabilized that franchise, right? He stabilized the franchise. I want to say there was 4-12 before he got there, and now they're a playoff team every year. He values himself one way, and the Cowboys value him another way. Clearly, you know what I'm saying? Because if they didn't, you know, they would have got a deal done. That's just it is what it is, you know. But that's tough. That's tough because some people feel like Dak is just average, you know, or above average. I'm sorry, above average. Some people think he's, you know, on the cusp of being elite. And this season will show it right here. You know, I know people say, oh, you should have took the deal. But at the end of the day, sometimes you got to bet on yourself, right? You got to bet on yourself. And sometimes we never know like the real details of the guaranteed money because they can spit out all these numbers like, oh, they offered him 33 a year. They offered him whatever. But how much is really guaranteed? And not just injury. I'm talking about fully guaranteed because that matters. That does matter. And I think a lot of people hear these massive amounts of money, 400 million, 500 million, 80 million, 100 million. Right. But they don't realize that unlike, again, the NBA and the MLB, where those guys are getting guaranteed money, the NFL, because the life expectancy, or rather the play expectancy of a player is so short compared to those other leagues, the NFL gets away with not guaranteeing contracts. And I think that's why guys hold out and try to fight for what they deserve. And I am a big fan, and I believe in always betting on yourself. In the words of Marshawn Lynch, be about your chicken, take care of your chicken. I am 100% for that, because I know the NFL, when it comes to time to play, it's a very short window of time a player has to cash in, and to cash in massively.
And so you never know.
For somebody holding out.
You never know, right? I could step on this field. He could step on the field, and I don't want to, wish bad on him, but anything could happen every time you step on the field, because it's such a gruesome sport, right? So when, that's why at the end of the Super Bowl year, I was able to cash in. I was like, yo, let's cash in now, because you just never know, right? And so I'm not mad at Dak for saying, you know what, I'm worth this. I'm trying to cash in now, but okay, you don't want to pay me this? I'm not going to be stuck in this contract that you believe I'm worth. I believe I'm worth more. I'm going to bet on myself. And I hope he gets it, man. I hope he gets his money.
I have to go back to Super Bowl 50. That was probably one of my favorite Super Bowls of all time. And partly because Beyonce was there too. Okay. But it was a great Super Bowl, because anybody who knows me knows, when it comes to any sport, I'm a defense girl. I'm a fan of defense. I think defense wins championships. I know it's an old school mentality. I think it has that effect in football. I think it's the case in basketball. And that really was a prime example of defense winning a championship, because Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers went in there the favorites. Let's be honest. They were rolling. 100%. Everybody was on the Cam bandwagon. The Panthers were going all the way. MVP. I mean, that was the team that if you were going to bet on, you were betting on them. You had Peyton Manning on the Broncos towards the end of his career, coming off that neck issue, and a lot of people didn't think he had the juice to compete with Cam Newton, but defense said, not so fast. Listen, we're going to hold our boy down. Take me kind of through the game plan. Was there a game plan that you guys knew, listen, Peyton can't do what Peyton's supposed to do normally, what he was able to do in Indianapolis, so we got to hold him down? Was that a big part of your game plan?
We never spoke on that specifically, but I remember one time, I want to say maybe 4 days before the game, Aqib Talib brought us all together and was like, yo, y'all go through everybody that the Panthers have played all season. Look at the defenses they played against. Ain't nobody like us, right? So I literally one night was going through, all the film, and I'm looking at them like, oh yeah, they haven't really played a solid defense all season. And they was blowing teams out, putting up 30 or 40 on teams, and it was just easy, right? Cam was MVP, Superman, all that. And so, we knew, and our defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips, man, he came with a great game plan. And he's very simple. He's more on the simple side, not really complex, but it always worked. And we had the players for it to work, right? So it was more, match coverage, man coverage, but they did a lot of max protection. So they kept the running backs in, they kept the tight ends in. Sometimes they would release Greg Olsen, but sometimes they kept those boys in to give Cam, more protection so he could throw these two-man routes, right? Ted Ginn and I forgot the other guys' names. So, our job as a linebackers was to not just sit. If we play cover 4, we would not just sit and wait. Yeah. We would blitz, right? We would blitz. And we had the corners to cover. We had the rushers to rush, and we put more pressure on Cam. And so I honestly felt like the game was over after that first touchdown we got on defense. When Vaughn hit him with the sack fumble, I just felt a different energy. I was like, oh, yeah, it was up 10-0. I was like, oh, it's ball game. It's ball game, because they wasn't ready for a team like us, that put that pressure on them, that was that talented on each level, from the D-line to the linebackers to the safeties to the corners to the rushers, man. We just had too much for them. And you could kind of see, Cam's, I could kind of feel his energy. When I was lined up across from him, his energy was just different. And I didn't play him before that season, but he kind of just seemed like, he wasn't as confident. And it showed.
I think one of the images that stand out in my mind is when Cam fumbled the ball, I believe in the second half, and he didn't go for it. He just sat there. And it was this look of defeat. You could just feel the energy, even watching it from, you know, obviously from the TV perspective, you could just feel that the life was sucked out of him. The life was sucked out of that offense, because you can imagine, you go in there, you're thinking you're the favorites. You've been blowing out teams all year, and they were blowing guys out double digits. I mean, there were games that it was just like, it looked like practice at one point. And he comes to you, and Peyton's not scoring points. The defense is doing all the work, and it's hard to compete with that when that's not what you prepared for. And you guys really showed, and I think that's why a lot of teams after Super Bowl 50 started paying more attention to their defense. Before, it was getting the quarterback, getting the wide receiver, getting the offensive line, making sure, you know, you had the tight ends. Now you see that teams are really investing into defense like they've never done before, and I think that started after that Super Bowl, because you see defense can still win championships. So
you see, I mean, you see Washington, right?
Oh yeah,
Washington spent the last couple picks on D ends. You know, Montez Sweat, they got Chase Young, they got Ryan Kerrigan. You know, they had 8 sacks, you know, in the first game. So I mean, that rush, man, them corners, man, I think it's all important.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're seeing them get bigger paydays, because teams are realizing that you want to win, you need a solid defense. I wish my Cowboys would take note. Just take a couple of mental notes there. So I'm going to put those broadcaster predictions to the test right now.
Okay.
Since you brought it up, we're going to do it. So I'm going to give you a division, and you're going to tell me who's going to come out of that division this season. All right, let's start in the AFC West. Some teams you're familiar with. We got the Chiefs, we got the Chargers, we got the Broncos, and we got the Raiders. Who's coming out?
That's easy. Chiefs is coming out of that one, 100%. It's too easy. I mean, they're unstoppable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're unstoppable. So I'm not saying they're unstoppable, but it's hard to stop them boys. And they have a hell of a coach, Andy Reid. You know, high-powered offense. Their defense is playing good. So yeah, they're gonna win the division easily.
All right, let's go to the NFC South. We got Tom Brady and the Bucks.
Oh, wow.
We got Drew Brees and the Saints. Yeah. We got Matt Ryan and the Falcons. And we got Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers. Who you going with?
I got the Saints winning that division, but I do have the Saints and the Bucks making the playoffs. The Falcons won't make it. The Panthers won't make it. I see the Saints and the Bucks making the playoffs. Saints will win the division, though. But don't sleep on the Bucks, man. I think once they get it figured out, they might be all right.
Listen, you can never count out Tom Brady. So
no, you can't.
You can never count out the GOAT. A lot of people are going to say, well, he's nothing without Belichick. We're going to see. So
we're going to see.
We're going to see for sure.
We're going to see.
So the AFC South, we got the Colts now with Phillip Rivers. We got the Titans and Tannehill. We got the Texans, and we got the Jaguars. Who you rolling with?
Oh, man. That's one of the tougher predictions, because I was thinking the Texans – until I looked at their schedule. Their schedule is tough. Their first 4 or 5 games is tough, right? They got the Vikings,
they got the Ravens this Sunday.
The Ravens, the Packers. You know what I'm saying? It's tough, man. They don't have their best offensive weapon anymore. So I would say it's going to be a tough, gritty type of division. I'm gonna go with the Titans, man.
Me too. That's my pick.
I'm gonna go with the Titans. I have to. You know, I feel like they're going to hit another gear this year. You know, they were good. They kind of flew under the radar last year, but I think this year they're going to take that next step. And I think the Texans will finish second. And you know, I have high hopes for the Colts, though. I still have high hopes for the Colts, even though I know they have Phillip and he throws them picks. He just kind of throws the ball around, but I think they still have a chance.
I think the Colts are a lot more talented than they played in week 1. But again, week 1, you're working out the kinks, no preseason, it's expected. But I think the only thing with the Colts is, like, look at Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. He had a talented roster offensively and defensively, and they couldn't do anything. I don't know how it's going to be any different with the Colts. I hope it's different, because I think the Colts have a really, like I said, a talented squad.
But I'm going to go with
the Titans too, because I think Tannehill gets a lot of slack and flack because of how he was in Miami. But you've kind of seen the rebirth of him. You have Derrick Henry out there. They got a nice little squad in Tennessee.
They got a squad. They got a squad, and they got the recipe. They run the ball, great running game. You know, good front seven, right? Good secondary. Man, Tannehill could throw the ball when he needs to. They're gonna be good.
All right, we're going to go to the NFC West now. We got the Cardinals.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got my boy Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. We got the
Okay.
Rams, and we got
Okay.
Jimmy G and the 49ers. Who you rolling with?
Seahawks. I feel like they're going to hit another level this year. I think they might make the Super Bowl. I think they might make it to the Super Bowl this year. Finally get back to where they were 2014
You think
and
Russell
13.
Wilson wins MVP?
I think so. I think so. I think he's overdue, man. I think he's overdue. And you know, they got him some good weapons. I still think they should have signed AB over Josh Gordon. That's just my thoughts. But they have a great running game, man. Chris Carson, they have a good O-line. Greg Olsen now at tight end. You know, and they're gonna be, you know, they'll probably be 12-4 or 13-3, man. I think Russ wins the MVP.
I got to bring you to the cause of my headaches every football season. I got to take you on a little trip to the NFC East real quick.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
Obviously, we have Washington. We have the Giants. We have the Eagles. And we have my Dallas Cowboys, who we rolling with to come out of the division.
Y'all division always sloppy.
It's
every
a
year.
Mess. It should be its own
every
reality show, I know.
I got the Cowboys, though. I think the Cowboys, I think they'll, you know, they'll get better. They'll improve from their week 1 loss. I never thought they would lose to the Rams, to be honest with you. I think the Rams roster it's definitely not as talented as y'all roster. But Mike McCarthy's a great coach. I think y'all gonna pull it together and y'all will win that division for sure.
From your lips to God's ears, please, because I can't have another season like last year.
Amen.
I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Your Super Bowl prediction, give it to me.
I got Seahawks and Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good Super Bowl.
But who wins?
Seahawks.
Oh, the reigning champs are going to fall.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks winning.
Okay, listen, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to play it back week of the Super Bowl to see if you're right. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for checking out this episode of All In with Ashley Nicole. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the new episodes. And while you're at it, check me out on social media and hit that follow because I post some pretty cool things on there that you won't see on YouTube.